Welcome back, everyone. As usual, we are two dudes talking 80s. I'm John. That's my partner in crime, Lewis.
Hello.
And we're going to go back to our musical roots. We've done a few movies in a row, kind of unusual for us. But this time we're going to talk about probably one of the most popular and best selling hard rock, glam metal, whatever you want to call it, albums of all time. We're talking about Whitesnake's self titled, or a lot of people refer to it as the 1987 album. I refer to it as 1987. How do you refer to it?
The Whitesnake self-titled, which I have right here. I'm trying to get the glare off of it. But yeah, I think they had another self-titled album, so it's good that people call it the 1987 album because it needs to be distinguished.
Yeah, and usually the self-titled is for your debut, so it's kind of strange, like, in your career, like all of a sudden you're going to be doing self-titled. It's kind of unusual. This album actually came out in March of '87, hence the 1987. Went to number two on the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 charts and has been certified as 8 times platinum.
Wow, man.
Yeah, so it's got to be up there with one of the biggest hard rock albums of all time.
Yeah, I would agree. I remember when this thing came out, and I was going to ask you this question, but I'll sort of answer it first and then ask you if you remember. The first time that I heard it, I was in Musicland at Hillsdale, and I had a buddy of mine, Dennis Gass, and he was in a sort of local glam metal band called I'm having a brain fart here.
Street Life
Street Life. Thank you. My God.
with Ly at the end.
Yes, yes.
Why I
At the
remember that and you don't, I don't know, but
The
okay.
guy used to live down the street from me, man. I can't believe that old age is sad. Anyway, so I remember going in there and talking to him. He was all like, "Oh man, have you heard the new Whitesnake album?" And he was playing it was the second song off of the CD, Bad Boys, and I listened to it and I thought, "Oh, this is okay. This is good." I wasn't like as jazzed about it as he was, but then I heard the rest of the album.
I think I was first exposed to it on MTV. I liked Slide It In. I don't think I ever bought it, but I liked, like Slow and Easy, and Love Ain't No Stranger is one of my favorite songs. I love that song, but never really bought the album. This came out, my first exposure was MTV, and of course, it's Whitesnake, and back then, we didn't have the internet, we didn't know all this stuff, and I'm like, that looks like Adrian Vandenberg on guitar. And I was a huge Vandenberg fan. And I was like, what the heck's he doing? And then, you see Vivian Campbell from Dio. It's like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And I'm listening to this song and I'm like, it seems like a Led Zeppelin ripoff to me. And it really didn't, do anything for me other than, we'll talk about the young lady in the video at the time. Didn't really do anything for me musically until it got to the breakdown before the guitar solo with kind of the cellos coming in and stuff. And that's when I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Still wasn't blown away by it, but by the time we got to their, second single, then I was a convert. But yeah, so let's talk about this album a little bit. Obviously, David Coverdale is a vocalist. John Sykes, formerly of Thin Lizzy, on guitar. Neil Murray, who played with everybody, was on bass. And Ainsley Dunbar, who came from Journey, was on drums. What a great lineup. Um, I know Sykes was brought in to do the guitars on Slide It In, so he didn't do much of the writing on there. I don't know if he did any of it. But he really came into his own writing with David Coverdale on this album. And boy, musically, they just meshed so incredibly well.
Yeah, I thought that, eh, to be honest, it took a while for me to warm up to John Sykes's lead guitar playing, and it took me a while to figure out why it took me a while to warm up to it. it tends to have, at least on this album, a lot of reverb on it, right? And it's the notes aren't as clearly defined as one would expect. But later on in life, I really gave it a good listen and tried to set that aside. Phenomenal guitar work there. Just absolutely the rhythms, some of the riffs, the leads, that's all just top notch.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And John Kalodner, who was one of the executives at Geffen, had a lot to do. He kind of resurrected the career of Aerosmith and kind of did the same thing for Whitesnake, because he convinced David Coverdale to record not one but two of his old songs, which was, God, I forgot which the other one was. Oh, "Crying in the Rain." The opening track was previously recorded, and of course, "Here I Go Again" was recorded in 1982, originally on the Saints and Sinners album. And I guess Coverdale didn't want to do that.
Huh.
Coverdale, good thing for Coverdale that he listened to John Kalodner. He probably, you don't sell 8 million, especially without "Here I Go Again." So, um, I don't know how much you looked into this album. I totally forgot, but the sad thing was, this was, again, such a remarkable album. It sold 8 million copies. John Sykes, David Coverdale, great partnership, great writing partnership, and they could not get along. It's just so sad. And I've never really figured out what happened between them. Of course, as you would suspect, there's, two different versions of the events.
Sure.
Coverdale actually had vocal issues, and even it required surgery. So they had to delay the recording of this album, or at least the vocal recording of this album, for about 6, 7 months.
Wow.
Um, and so obviously, you're sitting on your hands doing that. Um, the rumor was that John Sykes had tried to replace him, David Coverdale and Whitesnake. Um, John Sykes adamantly denies that, says, "What? How would I replace David Coverdale and Whitesnake? It makes no sense." John Sykes, on the other hand, didn't really have a reason. Oh, and Coverdale said that while they got along great musically, personally, they just could not get along. John
Wow.
Sykes said it was really strange because when they were recording the album, shortly after, some of the most of it was done, at least the music, he called Ainsley Dunbar. Ainsley Dunbar says, "Hey man, just so you know, I'm no longer in Whitesnake." Coverdale had kicked him out. A couple days later, he talks to Neil Murray, the bass player. "Hey, I'm no longer in Whitesnake. I got kicked out." John Sykes tries to call Coverdale because he's like, "Hey, you never discussed this with me. We never talked about it as a band, whatever." Can't reach him. I guess he calls Coverdale's manager and says, "Hey, am I in the band?" And essentially is told, "No, you're really not."
Wow.
Um, John Sykes, to his credit, thought about, okay, I should just leave it alone because he still had guitar solos to record. He's like, "I know David's just going to bring in another guitar player, and it's not going to be what I envisioned. And I'm still proud of what this is, and so I'm going to finish it." So he did, to his credit.
That's interesting. I'd heard that they didn't Sykes and Coverdale didn't get along really well. But then I've heard that about a lot of musicians with David Coverdale. Don't know if that's true or not, but the fact that he changes so many, heads in his band, or changed so many heads in his band so often, maybe lends some credence to that.
True, and then you also have to think about John Sykes, right? He doesn't exactly have the best history. Even when he did Blue Murder, he came back and he really hasn't done anything else in a long time, which is just, a shame. Um, I might be out of place on this one, but I thought I remembered when the Winery Dogs got together, which is, Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater, back in Dream Theater, Billy Sheehan, bassist extraordinaire, and Richie Kotzen. Originally, that was supposed to be John Sykes. instead of Richie
Hmm,
Kotzen. Think that's correct. But and from what I remember hearing is John Sykes just kind of ghosted him. And that's why they got
really?
Richie Kotzen. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm sure there's both are a little messed up, but it did make for a great album.
Yeah, the album is phenomenal, and I think I mentioned to you via text today that I listened to it again for the first time in a long time from start to finish. And even some of the songs that weren't hits, and there was a lot of them that were hits. There's a lot. It's like, oh, I forgot this was on this album. I forgot this one was on this album. Even some of the ones that weren't, it's like this is a pretty good tune.
Yeah, I mean, they did release four singles. Still of the Night was the first. I don't know what it went to chart, and then they came out with "Here I Go Again," which actually hit number one. "Is This Love," which hit number two, and then "Give Me All Your Love." So they did have four singles off this album. I have to ask you, what's your favorite track?
Oh, hands down. Without even thinking about it, Still of the Night.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. It's the one thing that annoys me about the album a little bit is that there's at least three or four songs that they use that same guitar slide intro into it, so you don't know if it's Still of the Night or you don't know if it's another song. But yeah, I mean, Still of the Night to me is a masterpiece. That part maybe in the middle there where they have the drums and just the keyboards, and it's very sort of um I don't know even what the words for it, mystical.
Atmospheric.
There you go. Uh, maybe they could have cut that a little shorter. That's up for debate. A lot of people think it's perfect the way that it is. You like it, huh? But yeah, that song, even right now when I listen to it, I don't turn it off. It's balls to the wall, amazing.
See, I have to go with, my favorite song is "Here I Go Again." And it's funny because I would say that's probably my top three of all-time favorite songs.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say "Here I Go Again." I know this is a weird list of favorite songs of all time. "Here I Go Again," "Yesterday" by the Beatles, and "How Deep Is Your Love" by the Bee Gees would probably be my three favorite songs. Three songs that I just do not get sick of and can listen to over and over and over.
That's awesome that you've given that some thought, man. Because I mean, if I were to pick like three favorite songs or even a favorite song, man, I'd be here forever.
I know it's difficult, but those are the ones that always stick out to me. Um, is there a song you mentioned some of the other songs that weren't hits? Give me a sleeper pick on this album that you're like, God, that's really good.
Children of the Night. That one really stuck out to me when I listened to it today. Uh, there was a couple of other ones that I thought there was like, oh, this is sort of really sort of teeny boppish and a little too happy for me. But Children of the Night was one I really liked.
Really, I'd have to go with the last song on the album, "Don't Turn Away."
That's also a good one.
I really like that song, and I thought that could have been a single. Do you have a least favorite?
I do, and it's that one that I said it was teeny boppish. Oh gosh, was it Straight for the Heart? It almost sounds like the Who, My Love Opened the Door. The keyboards like do 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 do.
That's straight from the heart.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite because again,
Uh,
it's just too candy cottonish.
Candy cottonish?
Yeah, it's just too sickly sweet. It's
Isn't it that cotton candy?
that too.
Never heard of people having dyslexia like that, but okay. Candy cottonish.
Yes,
That's a new one. All right.
cotton candy-ish.
Wow. I gotta say my least favorites, Children of the Night. I just kind of like, for me the lyrics are just a little too cliche. Are you ready to rock, children? It's like, come on, guys. But so I apologize. I forget. Did you go with me to see him on this tour?
No, I never saw Whitesnake.
You never. I don't remember who I went with. I saw this lineup. Oh, and of course we got to talk about it. So after they recorded this album and fired everybody, David Coverdale replaced the band with like a who's who. Tommy Aldridge, drummer extraordinaire from Ozzy, drums. Rudy Sarzo, Quiet Riot, Ozzy, bass. Adrian Vandenberg from Vandenberg, and then Vivian Campbell from Dio. That on guitar. That was the lineup. Pretty amazing lineup. Um, but I did see them at the Shoreline. I think Great White opened. I don't remember much about Great White. I got to be honest, I was really disappointed with Whitesnake. It was
Really?
a good show. Um, they did the guitar solo part, the guitar solo section. And I had seen Adrian Vandenberg with his own band, and he did a guitar solo where he started off on an acoustic guitar and then, went on to his electric Les Paul and was ripping it. I had seen Dio live with Vivian Campbell, another amazing solo. I don't know what it was. Something about their playing together did not work for me. And
Wow.
it was kind of disappointing. I remember thinking Adrian Vandenberg's solo was so much better in Vandenberg than it was with Whitesnake, and it never made any sense to me.
Wow. I wonder if that had something to do with not trying to take the spotlight or something ego related. That's bizarre, man, because I know you're a big Vandenberg fan. So for you to say
Yeah.
something like that,
It was a little disappointing, and it's funny because Vivian Campbell was replaced shortly thereafter, and I guess they Adrian Vandenberg said that Vivian Campbell's playing started to get a lot more similar to his as they were touring together, which was kind of strange. So who knows? I mean, a lot like you said, a lot of egos. Who knows really what happened? But we got to talk about you know probably the biggest, other than the great music. The reason this album was so incredibly successful and such a cultural icon um, was the videos. We have to talk about them. I'm
we
sorry.
do.
You don't have to contribute to this part if you don't want to, Lou. God bless her soul, Tawny Katane, who I had already loved her in Bachelor Party, the Tom Hanks movie. I thought she
Right.
was great in that, but she was such a presence in the video, particularly, here I go again on the Jaguar, flipping around and everything, and uh-oh, wow, that's beautiful. That is
Oh
so
man.
beautiful.
And I thank you and Nancy so much for getting this. But yeah, I mean, it was iconic. I mean, we use the word a lot, right? But everybody remembers that video. Everybody remembers, the girl on the Jags, and it is absolutely a clip from the 80s that you immediately associate with the 80s when you see it.
Oh God, and that big hair, so gorgeous.
And the nip slip.
Excuse me.
You didn't hear about the nip slip.
Please tell. Do tell.
So the first time I heard about the nip slip was I was at Dave Castro's house, and he told me about it, and we were like drinking beer and had a few friends over, and he had it recorded on his VCR, and he was able to stop it at the exact point that you see a little bit of nipple there.
Wow. I'm assuming Tawny Kitanes is what we're referring to.
That is. I mean, David Coverdale, I'm sure he's got nice ones, but it wouldn't be quite as exciting.
Well, it depends who. It was kind of a crazy time, right? Tawny Katane was such an iconic person from those videos. All the guys wanted to be with her, and all the girls wanted to be her. Even my wife, who's not usually that kind of person, was like, when she met Tawny Katane, she's like, God, I wanted to be you in the 80s. And like I said, I know she had her demons, everything. I can only go based upon my experience when I got you that photo. She was so nice to us. She was so incredibly cool. I have nothing but, good things to say about her. We had a very nice interaction. It wasn't the longest, but we were probably there for about 6 minutes or so talking to her, and just a
Nice.
just a sweetheart. But so let's go back to the video. Do you have a favorite video?
honestly, I can't remember any of the other videos other than the ones with Tiny Katane all over the Jags. Um, yeah, I have to plead the fifth on that one. I don't have a recollection of the other videos.
They're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Is This Love was another fantastic one. And then Still of the Night when she's on the couch and she's wearing I think it's a leopard print jacket. Be Still My Heart. But yeah, you got to go with Here I Go Again because apparently it has a nip slip that I didn't even really know about. Yeah, what are you gonna do? Um, so you never saw Whitesnake. I really I thought we were gonna do this and it was gonna be something we were gonna talk about, and you were gonna be like, "Yeah, I went to that show with you, you idiot," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay." I could have sworn you went with me to that. I don't know why.
Yeah, I wish that I had. That's one of those bands that I really wished I had seen back in their heyday that I didn't.
I was disappointed because they came back. I want to say it was on the next album or maybe even the same tour. They came back with Bad English opening,
Oh wow.
and it was one of those things like I'm kind of like, do I want to? Do I not want to? I just seen them, and I was young. I just didn't realize, I figured, you're going to get 80 million opportunities to see these guys, which didn't really happen. Um, and then it sold out. Wasn't expecting it to sell out. And it's not like today where you can go on the secondary market and find a ticket for anything. It sold out. So I didn't go to this, the second go around. And it was kind of funny because I remember reading an article in Crime Magazine out of England. Um, at the time, Whitesnake was huge when it came out, and they were selling out everywhere. And Def Leppard had released Hysteria, and it wasn't doing very well. If you remember, we can probably talk about Def Leppard, that album, some other time. But then when Pour Some Sugar on Me finally came out as a single for Def Leppard, Hysteria, of course, flew off the charts. And then it kind of turned around where Def Leppard was selling out everywhere and Whitesnake started to struggle because, they were playing the same markets and close to one another. So, back then, well, even now, I mean, the price of tickets is insane. You really have to pick your poison. And, people were choosing to go to see Def Leppard this time. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah, very. Yeah, I wasn't aware that the Hysteria didn't come off out of the gate ripping. But you might be right.
It did not. And maybe we'll do that on another episode. So I don't want to talk about it too much. So you never saw
Sounds good.
Whitesnake, huh?
Never saw them, man. Never.
Like I said, I saw them that tour, and then I saw them open for Priest a few years back, probably a lot of years back now. And unfortunately, David Coverdale's voice is shot. And then I saw them opening for Foreigner a while back too. So they're supposed to do, their final tour, Whitesnake. And I guess David Coverdale got COVID and everything happened, and they they never went back to it. So I don't know if it's something that will ever happen again or not. A proper goodbye to Whitesnake. Unfortunately, Coverdale can't quite hit what he used to, and it's unfortunate. It happens to the best of us, right? As we get older, we can't do things. I went back to Muay Thai. God, if you want to talk about not being able to do what you used to be able to do. Oh boy. But anyway, um, one thing I wanted to just bring up before we talked about kind of hypothetical, right? And I was thinking about this when we were getting ready to do this podcast. How great would it have been to see a collaboration of Gary Moore with David Coverdale?
Yeah, yeah, that would have been pretty awesome. 'Cause Gary Moore is again one of those real unsung heroes. Unless I think you're a guitar player, you may not be exposed to him. And brilliant. Again, getting a little off topic, but that would have been very cool. That would have been really cool.
And he, obviously had the very, blues influence, because later on in his career, we moved from rock to the blues. And he also was a huge influence on John Sykes and Vivian Campbell, that Irish thing. I'm amazed that never came to fruition. You think, Coverdale, geez, Coverdale recorded with Jimmy Page. It's kind of shocking that him and Gary Moore, with all, you would think all the commonality is like somehow that never came to fruition.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I've got a question for you.
Yes.
Being that you saw David Coverdale in his heyday, I've heard from things that I've read that he was like the one take master, that he was absolutely just perfect. What did you think of his performance back when he was, at his peak?
He was he was excellent. I thought he did a really good job. I thought he, for the most part, hit everything. I thought he was an engaging front man, very gracious with the audience. He had that English charm about him. I thought his performance was really, spectacular. Just for me as a guitar player, like I said, I just came away disappointed mostly, because I wanted to see Adrian Vandenberg, I wanted to see Vivian Campbell, and to see them and not perform up to what I believe they were capable of and what I had seen them do in the past, and not at least reach that level, that was disappointing, and that kind of put a damper on the event for me. But
Yeah,
Coverdale was great. Now, last few times I've seen him, sad to say, it's not he's not there, but no. Oh, and we also got to mention real quick the producers on this, Mike Stone and Keith Olsen. Man, Mike Stone did a lot of work with Queen, and I guess he did the recording of the instruments from what I've read on this album. And then obviously with Coverdale's vocals, he was, out of the picture. But he was supposed to do all the Queen remasters, and sadly he died at like age 51 or 52.
oh wow.
Complications resulting from alcoholism, which is really sad. Far too young. And then Keith Olsen, who did a ton of stuff like, oh God, Sammy Hagar, Rick Springfield, Pat Benatar, Asia, I believe. You know, I guess when they went back to record the vocals, geez, I forgot the name of the producer that was originally doing the vocals with David Coverdale, and just Coverdale wasn't feeling it. But he went back and he got Keith Olsen to do the vocals. So, shout out to the producers because they're such an important part of how those albums actually came out. So,
Yeah, 100%.
going off topic again, I got to show this because I just think this is the coolest thing. For Christmas, my son's girlfriend got me this game, and because we talk about the '80s and stuff, and it's a very retro-driven show, I think everyone would appreciate it. This is actually a
That's
board game. It's called Blockbuster, and it says a movie game for anyone who has ever seen a movie. Tell me that packaging is not the best, right?
that is brilliant, man. That's so awesome.
So I had to break that out. I just thought it was too fun not to bring out and show. So um, I think that's about it for what I got for Whitesnake's 1987. Do you have anything you would like to add?
I don't, other than I'm sure that if you are into this kind of music back in the day, that you've heard this thing all the way through. If you haven't, give it a listen. I gave it a listen, like I said, shortly before we started this recording, and was just reminded of what a masterpiece this thing is, and all the hits that came off of it. And as mentioned, even some of the songs that weren't hits, they're still super memorable. Absolutely iconic from our period.
Yeah. Don't even have a drink to do that. I just wish we could have gotten one more album out of John Sykes, David Coverdale. Like that collaboration was magical. It's a shame it didn't happen. We only got one album out of a true collaboration. The songwriting department, which is just so criminal, so criminal. But be thankful for what we did get, and I feel like Whitesnake never ever reached anywhere near those pinnacles. And my advice to anybody watching this is turn this off and go watch all the videos and see Tawny Katane in all her glory. and apparently you can pause it at some spot and you can see some of her nipple or something. I don't know. But oh, what an '80s woman! I mean, that hair was voluminous and just you just wanted to bury your head in it, right?
Oh, I won't touch that one. That's too low-hanging fruit.
All right, cool. We good?
I think we're good, man.
All right. And the other takeaway from this is candy cotton.
Yeah,
When I'm done with this recording, I'm gonna go get some Dud's milk.
it's beautiful, man.
It's not. And the sad thing is, there's not even any alcohol on for either of us, and it still came out that way.
That's beautiful, man.
What is it
That's
called, Lewis? What is the proper name for it?
it was cotton candy-ish.
Okay, thank you. Not anymore. Well, as always, we appreciate you guys watching. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Lewis, take us out.
Peace out.
Thank you guys.